Admiral Ta gripped the railing as the Resilience shuddered. Through the wide view screen, Earth burned. The once blue planet now wore a shroud of black smoke as antimatter charges tore through its atmosphere. Cities that had stood for centuries vanished in blinding flashes of light. Another direct hit on the Atlantic shield, reported Officer Dew, his fingers flying across the control panel. North American evacuation centers are going dark. Ta had been eating breakfast with his family when the first Imperial ships appeared in Earth's orbit. No warning, no communication, just the sudden appearance of massive warships unlike anything humans had ever built. By the time he reached the command center, the first asteroids were already striking major cities. Lieutenant Han approached, her uniform torn and face streaked with soot from fighting fires in the lower decks. "Admiral, Imperial cruisers have locked onto the civilian fleet in Sector 4. 3 evacuation vessels already destroyed. Estimated casualties, 12,000 per ship." The bridge fell silent. Ta closed his eyes briefly, then squared his shoulders. "Deploy our remaining fighters. Have them focus on drawing fire away from the civilian ships." He turned to Weapons Officer Park. "Target the closest Imperial frigate. Full power to forward shields." "Sir, we can't win this fight," Park said quietly. "We're not trying to win. We're buying time." On the emergency channel, panicked voices called for help as Earth's defense forces crumbled. The Empire had targeted military installations first, then communication networks. Most world leaders were already dead. Captain Jum approached with a data tablet. "Latest Imperial transmission intercepted. Sir, they're calling us an evolutionary mistake and a threat to galactic stability. They claim our technology development curve suggests we would challenge Imperial authority within a century." Ta watched as another antimatter charge hit what had once been Tokyo. "So they decided to wipe us out before we could become a problem." "Yes, sir. Preemptive genocide." The Resilience rocked as an Imperial beam sliced through its outer hull. Warning alarms blared across the bridge. "Hull breach on decks 4 through 7, shouted engineermen. "Sealing emergency bulkheads." As the evacuation ship broke through Earth's upper atmosphere, a priority transmission cut through the chaos. General Kim's face appeared on the main screen, his features illuminated by emergency lighting. Behind him, the walls of Earth Command were collapsing. "Admiral Tai, confirmation that Operation Ember is successful. 5 colony ships have gone dark and are proceeding to the rally point." Kim coughed as smoke filled his bunker. "Remember the plan. They expect immediate retaliation. They'll never anticipate a long game." "Sir, we can still send a rescue team," Ta began. "No time. Your mission is clear. Be the decoy. Draw their attention." Kim's eyes were steady despite the chaos around him. "This isn't the end of humanity, Admiral. It's just the beginning of our return." The transmission cut abruptly as the command center took a direct hit. For 3 days, the Resilience led a desperate fighting retreat, drawing Imperial forces away from the escape route the colony ships had taken. The human vessels fought with everything they had, not to win, but to be noticed. "They're targeting our engines," Captain Jun reported as the ship trembled under another hit. "We can't take much more." On the tactical display, Todd watched the last dots representing human ships winking out one by one. Of the thousands of vessels that had flooded Earth, less than 100 remained. None of them would survive the day. But that wasn't their purpose. "Any sign they've detected the colony ships?" Tai asked. Communications Officer Sun shook her head. "No, sir. The stealth systems worked. All Imperial attention is focused on our decoy fleet. Then we've succeeded." Tai addressed the crew, many wounded and exhausted after days of constant battle. "Earth is lost, but humanity survives. Those 5 ships carry our best scientists, engineers, doctors, and 50,000 civilians. They carry our future." The bridge crew stood straighter despite their fatigue. "The Empire thinks they know us," Ta continued. "They think we'll fight until we can't. They expect desperate revenge attacks. They don't understand human patience. While they celebrate our extinction, we'll be rebuilding, growing stronger. And someday, when they've forgotten to fear us, we'll return. The tactical display showed Imperial ships closing in from all sides. Final transmission from Imperial Command. Lieutenant Han reported. They're broadcasting throughout the galaxy that the human threat has been neutralized. They're claiming total victory. A small smile touched Ta's lips. Let them believe it. As the Resilience prepared for its final stand, Ta thought of the colony ships now safely beyond Imperial space, carrying the seeds of humanity's survival. The Empire believed they had erased humanity from the galaxy. They thought the story was over. In reality, it had only just begun. 3 days later, the Empire's High Command addressed the galactic community. The human species had been completely eradicated, a regrettable but necessary action to ensure galactic stability. The Empire promised that Earth would stand as a memorial to the dangers of unchecked aggression. In the vast emptiness beyond Imperial territory, 5 ships carrying the last humans traveled in perfect silence, their systems operating below detection thresholds. Inside, children were being born, scientists were planning, and military leaders were beginning the longest preparation for war the galaxy would ever know. The Empire's lie, that humanity was extinct, would one day return to destroy them. Some climbed the winding path to Lookout Point, his boots crunching on the red stone that covered much of Haven's surface. The bitter wind carried the metallic scent of the planet's strange soil. 200 years ago, his ancestors had arrived here with nothing but desperation and determination. Now, as he reached the summit, he gazed upon the result of their labors. Below him stretched New Sol, the largest of humanity's 7 underground cities. The massive dome covering the city center shimmered as its energy field cycled. From this height, some could see people moving through the streets like tiny insects, going about their daily lives in a world built entirely by human hands. Right on time, said a voice behind him. Director Minji approached, her uniform bearing the flame emblem of the Ember program. Though in her 60s, she moved with the precision of someone half her age, the result of medical advances developed in Haven's isolated laboratories. I wouldn't be late for this, Sung replied, turning back to the view. Not today. Minji stood beside him at the cliff edge. Impressive, isn't it? When the colony ships landed, this was nothing but rock and dust. Those first 50,000 refugees dug with their bare hands to create the initial shelters. Sung nodded. Every child on Haven learned the story. How the 5 ships had hidden in this nebula. How the early settlers had faced starvation and radiation exposure. How thousands had died in those first difficult years. And the Empire never found us, he said. They never looked, Minji corrected. Our nebula scrambles their scanning technology. We've maintained complete radio silence for 2 centuries. No transmissions, no detectable energy signatures. Their maps show Haven as just another lifeless rock in an uninteresting sector. They've never sent probes. Oh, they have. Minji smiled slightly. Our deep space monitors detect them. We've become quite good at intercepting and redirecting anything that comes too close. The Empire trusts their technology completely. If their scanners say there's nothing here, they believe it. Below them, the protective dome cycled again, briefly revealing the city before the shields reactivated. Beyond the main settlement lay vast agricultural zones, crops engineered to thrive in Haven's harsh conditions. And further still, partly hidden by the curve of the hills, the massive shipyards where humanity's vengeance was taking physical form. 200 years of preparation. Sung murmured, all for one purpose. Not just vengeance, Minji said. Survival, justice. The Empire didn't just try to kill us. They tried to erase us from history. Every child born on Haven represents their failure. Sung watched as a transport carried workers to the distant shipyards. The newest vessels were unlike anything described in the historical records. The Empire's technology had stagnated over the centuries, while humanity, isolated and focused, had leaped forward in ways their ancestors could never have imagined. "Tomorrow your real training begins," Minji said, turning to face him directly. "Your genetic assessments are the best we've seen in years. You're compatible with the modification program at the highest levels." Sung felt his heartbeat quicken. The modification program, the most secret project on a planet of secrets. The ability to temporarily alter human DNA to mimic other species, the key to infiltrating the Empire. "You'll be able to pass as one of them," Minji continued. "Your body will change. Your face, even your internal organs will restructure to match Imperial biological patterns. Our scientists have spent generations perfecting this technology." A gust of wind swept across the cliff, carrying dust that stung Sung's eyes. Or perhaps it wasn't the dust at all. Like every child on Haven, he had grown up with stories of Earth, not just the scientific facts, but personal accounts, the journals of survivors, the recordings made in those final days, the faces of billions who had died when the Empire decided humanity was too dangerous to exist. "My grandfather was 4 years old when they reached Haven," Sung said quietly. He still remembered the blue skies of Earth. "He told me he kept waiting to wake up from the nightmare, to find himself back home. He died still waiting." Minji placed a hand on his shoulder. "And now you'll be one of the first to return to the Empire that tried to wipe us out. You'll walk among them. They'll never suspect the extinct have returned." Below them, lights began coming on across New Seoul as the artificial day cycle shifted toward evening. 7 million humans now lived on Haven, all descended from those original refugees. 7 million people who had grown up with a single purpose guiding their civilization. "I won't fail," Sung said simply. Minji's eyes held the same determined look seen in every citizen of Haven, a look passed down through 5 generations. "None of us can afford to," she replied. "Revenge takes patience." As they descended from the outlook, Sung glanced back at the horizon where the shipyards lay. 300 vessels were nearing completion, ships designed not just to fight the Empire, but to defeat it completely. For 2 centuries, humanity had hidden, learned, and prepared. While the Empire had forgotten them, they had forgotten nothing. Tomorrow, Sung would begin the process of becoming something other than human, at least on the outside. He would learn to speak, move, and think like an Imperial citizen. And then he would carry humanity's memory of extinction into the heart of those who had tried to destroy them. The long wait was almost over. The Empire believed humanity was extinct. Soon they would learn how wrong they were. Sung stared at his reflection in the mirror, but a stranger looked back. His once human features had disappeared completely. Now his skin was pale blue with faint ridges along his forehead. His eyes had changed from brown to violet with vertical pupils. Even his hands had transformed, now bearing 6 fingers instead of 5. "Perfect," said Jin, standing behind him. "The genetic modifications have stabilized completely. You look exactly like a purebred Talon." Sung practiced the Talon facial expressions he had spent months learning. Their smiles were subtle, just a slight upward movement of the mouth corners. Their formal greeting involved a specific eye-narrowing motion that took humans weeks to master. "The neural implant is functioning properly," Jin continued, checking readings on a small device. "It contains everything you need. Talon cultural details, linguistic patterns, common behaviors, and key Imperial security protocols. Over 5 years of intelligence gathering compressed into a direct access format." Sung nodded, watching the unfamiliar face in the mirror copy his movement. The training had been brutal. 2 years of physical conditioning, behavioral modification, language immersion, and finally, the genetic alteration. Many candidates had failed. Some had died when their bodies rejected the changes. But Sung had persevered, driven by the stories his grandfather had told him of Earth's final days. "Your identity is secured in the Imperial database," Jin said, handing him identification credentials. "You are now Delegate Vor, a minor diplomatic envoy from the Talon Collective. Your background has been planted in all relevant systems, Education records, travel history, family connections. Your target is Imperial Central Command on Nexus Prime. And if they run a deep genetic scan? Sung asked, his voice now carrying the distinctive melodic quality of Talon speech. The modifications go to the cellular level. Only the most advanced medical equipment could detect the alterations, and those require special authorization. Just avoid Imperial medical facilities if possible. Sung took a deep breath. After generations of waiting, humanity was finally making its move. He would be among the first to walk among those who had tried to exterminate his species. Remember, Jin said quietly, you're not alone. 500 others have already infiltrated Imperial society across 20 core worlds. The network is in place. Each agent has a specific target, but yours is perhaps the most crucial. The Central Defense Grid, Sung said. Jin nodded. Find its location. Secure the access codes. With those, we can neutralize their entire military in a single strike. 3 weeks later, Delegate Vor arrived on Nexus Prime, the gleaming heart of the Galactic Empire. The capital planet was a monument to imperial power, a world of soaring towers and vast governmental complexes where representatives from 1,000 worlds conducted the business of the galaxy. For 3 years, Sung lived as Vor. He attended diplomatic functions, filed reports, and slowly built relationships with mid-level bureaucrats. He learned which officials could be bribed, which were true believers in imperial supremacy, and which harbored secret resentments. He carefully climbed the ranks of the diplomatic service, always maintaining his cover as an ambitious but unremarkable Talon representative. Sometimes, walking through the grand boulevards of Nexus Prime, some would see other infiltrators, humans hidden behind alien faces. They never acknowledged each other directly. Their communications happened through encoded messages buried in routine transmissions or through dead drops in predetermined locations. But he knew they were there, working toward the same goal: justice for Earth. In his 3rd year, Sung's patience was rewarded. His supervisor, High Delegate Ren, invited him to join a special regulatory committee overseeing critical infrastructure. The position gave him limited access to data regarding Imperial defense systems. You've proven your dedication to efficiency, Delegate Vor, Ren said. The committee needs level-headed representatives who understand the importance of security protocols. Sung bowed in the formal Talon manner. I am honored to serve the Empire in any capacity. Through careful maneuvering and strategic information gathering, Sung gradually expanded his access. When Security Minister Lan was caught in a corruption scandal, Sung provided evidence against the minister's rivals, earning himself a position on the Emergency Oversight Committee. Finally, after months of careful work, he found what he had been searching for: references to the Central Defense Grid, the system that coordinated all Imperial military forces. The actual location was buried under layers of security, but Sung was nothing if not patient. On Haven, Admiral Ba stood in the command center of humanity's secret fleet. 300 vessels filled the massive underground hangars, ships unlike anything seen in the galaxy before. Their hulls were made of materials developed in isolation, designed to absorb rather than reflect detection scans. Their propulsion systems left no energy wake. Their weapons had been specifically engineered to counter Imperial defenses. Status report, Bai ordered. Commander Dai stepped forward. All ships are at full readiness, Admiral. Crews have completed final training exercises. Our AI systems have run 10,000 battle simulations against Imperial forces with a 98% success rate. Bai nodded. And the infiltration teams. All agents report they're in position across the Empire. They await your signal to begin coordinated actions. Sung has just confirmed his access to the Central Defense Grid location. He requires one more security clearance to obtain the access codes. Bai walked to the large tactical display showing the Imperial core worlds. For 2 centuries, humanity had hidden, prepared, and waited. They had built not just weapons, but an entirely new civilization dedicated to one purpose: to ensure that what happened to Earth would never be forgotten or forgiven. After 200 years, Ba said quietly, "The wait is almost over." On Nexus Prime, Sung accessed the final security gate using the credentials of an unconscious Imperial officer. The screen before him displayed what no human had ever seen: the complete command structure of the Central Defense Grid, including the access codes that would allow Haven's forces to shut down the entire Imperial military with a single stroke. As he downloaded the information to his neural implant, Sung thought of his grandfather, of Earth, of the billions who had died. "It's time," he whispered to himself. "Initiate Operation Reckoning." The Imperial shipyards orbiting Helios 6 glowed with activity. Massive construction cranes moved between half-built warships. Worker transports ferried thousands of laborers between shifts. The facility was the pride of the Empire, capable of producing a capital ship every 30 days. Vessels that enforced Imperial rule across the galaxy. In the Central Command Tower, Shipyard Commander Trell reviewed production reports with satisfaction. Under his leadership, the shipyard had exceeded quotas for 6 straight cycles. The Emperor himself had commended Trell's efficiency. "Sir," called a monitoring officer, "we're detecting an unusual power fluctuation in the outer defense grid." Trell frowned. "Run a diagnostic. Probably just another radiation surge from the star." But before the officer could respond, the main lights flickered and went out. Emergency lighting bathed the command center in red. Warning alarms began blaring throughout the facility. "What's happening?" demanded Trell as his staff rushed to their stations. "Get the backup systems online immediately." His lieutenant frantically worked at the controls, fingers flying across the interface. "Sir, the command protocols aren't responding. Something has overridden the entire network. All 3 defense layers are offline simultaneously." "That's impossible," Trell snapped. "The systems operate on isolated networks, specifically to prevent complete failure." On the main view screen, something appeared that made Trell's blood run cold. Ships were emerging from empty space directly within the shipyard's perimeter. Not 1 or 2, but dozens. They were unlike any vessels the Empire had ever encountered. Sleek, dark, and moving with impossible precision between the vulnerable Imperial ships under construction. "Where did they come from?" Trell whispered. "No ships could penetrate our sensor grid without detection." "Unknown design, sir," reported the weapons officer. "No matching profiles in the database. They're not broadcasting any recognition signals. Launch all fighter squadrons. Alert the defense fleet." Trell ordered. "We can't, sir. Communications are jammed. The defense fleet isn't responding, and our fighter bay doors won't open. The entire system is locked down." Across the shipyard, the mysterious vessels took position near critical infrastructure points. They made no aggressive moves, yet their mere presence represented an impossible security breach, one that was happening simultaneously across the Empire. At the Naval Command Base on Corvus II, Admiral Jun stared in disbelief as his entire fleet went dark, systems shutting down ship by ship. At the communications hub on Dendari Prime, technicians watched helplessly as their transmission network was hijacked by an outside force. In the Defense Ministry on Nexus Prime, generals gathered around screens showing military installations going offline across 27 systems simultaneously. And on every Imperial communication channel, from military frequencies to civilian broadcasts, the same message played in perfect Imperial standard. "This is Admiral Bai of the Haven Fleet. 200 years ago, you attempted to exterminate humanity. You failed. The extinct have returned." The message repeated, accompanied by footage that no Imperial citizen had ever seen, recordings of Earth's destruction, preserved by those who had escaped. The burning cities, the billions dead, the systematic hunting of evacuation ships. In the Imperial Palace on Nexus Prime, Emperor Xen sat frozen on his throne as reports flooded in from across his realm. His most secure facilities were compromised. His fleets were disabled without firing a shot. His carefully constructed empire of 10,000 years was coming apart in minutes. Impossible, he whispered, his normally commanding voice reduced to a shocked murmur. We killed them all. The historical records confirm it. Humanity was eliminated. Their planet rendered uninhabitable. Security Chief Lore rushed into the throne room, his elite guards in formation behind him. Your Majesty, we must move you to the secure bunker immediately. The palace defenses have been compromised. How? Demanded Sen. This facility has the strongest security in the galaxy. Infiltration, Your Majesty, Lore replied, his voice tight with tension. We're discovering humans throughout our command structure. They've disguised themselves as Imperial citizens. As us. As if to confirm his words, the grand doors to the throne room slid open. The Imperial Prime Minister walked in calmly, dismissing the guards with a familiar gesture they had obeyed for decades. Your Majesty, the Prime Minister said, bowing slightly. I've prepared the emergency broadcast system. We must address the Empire immediately to prevent panic. Emperor Xen stared at his most trusted advisor, the man who had served the throne loyally for 40 years. Prime Minister Ran, what do you know of this? How is this possible? The Prime Minister straightened and smiled, an expression that suddenly seemed wrong on his Nexian features. Then, before the stunned eyes of the Emperor and his guards, those features began to change. The ridged forehead smoothed, the golden skin darkened to tan. The six-fingered hands reformed into human five-fingered ones. Where the trusted Imperial Prime Minister had stood moments before, a human male now stood, wearing the same ornate robes of office. You missed some, said Sung, his voice no longer carrying the distinctive Nexian tones, but now unmistakably human. 50,000, to be exact. Enough to rebuild. Enough to remember. Enough to return. Emperor Xen recoiled in horror. Guards, seize him. But the guards didn't move. Their features, too, were beginning to shift. Your security detail has been under human control for years, Sung explained calmly. As has your fleet command, your defense network, your communication systems. We've been patient, Your Majesty. For 200 years, we've waited for this moment. Outside the palace windows, sleek ships of Haven design appeared in the skies of Nexus Prime, hovering above the government district. Similar scenes were unfolding across the Empire. Not a shot fired, yet the most powerful civilization in the galaxy found itself suddenly, completely paralyzed. 2 centuries of meticulous planning had come to fruition. The humans had returned, and they had already won. Sunlight streamed through the crystal dome of the Imperial Palace on Nexus Prime. For 3,000 years, this grand building had been the center of power for the mightiest empire the galaxy had ever known. No enemy had ever breached its walls. No foreign leader had ever dictated terms within its halls, until today. Admiral Ba walked slowly across the polished floor of the Grand Assembly Chamber. His footsteps echoed in the tense silence. Behind him came the military commanders of Haven, men and women whose grandparents had been born in underground shelters, raised on stories of a lost homeworld. On the other side of the chamber waited Emperor Xen. Just weeks ago, he had ruled over 10,000 worlds. His word had been law across the galaxy. Now he sat with slumped shoulders, surrounded by the few advisors who had remained loyal after the human revelations. The surrender documents are prepared, said General Ho, placing a data tablet on the central table. Sen stared at the tablet as if it might bite him. You could have revealed yourselves earlier, he said bitterly. Why wait centuries? Why the deception? Admiral Ba met the Emperor's gaze steadily. Because we needed to be certain. Certain that when we returned, we would not merely fight you. We would defeat you so thoroughly that no species would ever again consider genocide a viable option. The evidence of that defeat surrounded them. Throughout the Empire, human agents had revealed themselves in positions of power. The Imperial fleet sat dormant, its control systems locked by Haven's technology. 200 years of patient infiltration had brought the Empire to its knees without a full-scale war. The terms are simple, said Admiral Ba. "The Empire will be dissolved. All member worlds will form a new galactic council where every species holds equal standing, and the Imperial leadership will face trial for the destruction of Earth and the attempted extinction of humanity." "You expect me to sign my own death warrant?" Chen asked. "We expect you to answer for your actions," they replied, "just as your ancestors made our ancestors answer for the crime of existing." A low murmur ran through the Imperial counselors. One of them, an elder with ceremonial scars across his face, leaned toward the Emperor. "The humans have shown remarkable restraint, Your Majesty. They could have destroyed us completely. Their terms are unexpectedly merciful." Sen's eyes narrowed. "And what of revenge? Will you now destroy our homeworlds as we destroyed yours?" Ba's expression remained calm. "That was considered. Many on Haven wanted exactly that. But we did not hide and rebuild for 2 centuries merely to become what we hated." In the corner of the chamber, Sung watched the proceedings. After years living as the Imperial Prime Minister, he had finally reversed the genetic modifications that had given him a Nexian appearance. His human face felt strange now, almost foreign after so long in disguise. "Your infiltration was perfect," said a voice beside him. Sung turned to find one of the Emperor's guards, a young officer named Kel. "How many of you were there among us?" "Over 500, Sung replied. "In every level of Imperial society. We learned your ways. We studied your weaknesses. We became what we needed to be." "And now?" asked Kel. "Now we become ourselves again." Outside the palace, the citizens of Nexus Prime gathered in nervous crowds. Imperial propaganda had taught them that humans were dangerous savages, eliminated for the good of the galaxy. Instead, they watched in astonishment as Haven ships landed in public squares. Humans emerge, not as conquerors but as diplomats, offering reassurance and explanation. In the Grand Assembly Chamber, Emperor Xen finally reached for the surrender documents. "History will remember this day," he said quietly. "Yes," Admiral Ba agreed, "but not as the day your empire fell. As the day something better began." As the Emperor signed, Sung felt a weight lifting from his shoulders. He thought of his grandfather who had died still dreaming of Earth's blue skies. He thought of the billions who had perished when humanity was deemed too dangerous to exist. They were avenged now, not through more destruction, but through the creation of something that would ensure such atrocities never happened again. When the signing was complete, Admiral Ba stood before the Imperial delegation. "Your worlds will not be occupied. Your people will not be harmed. But your power structure will change. No species will ever again have the authority to erase another from existence." As the Admiral spoke, Sung slipped away from the formal proceedings. He found a quiet balcony overlooking the capital city. For the first time in years, he could stand openly as a human being, without fear or deception. A small group of Nexian children had gathered below the balcony, staring up at him with curious eyes. They had never seen a human before. To them, his kind were just stories from history texts, a dangerous species eliminated long ago. Sung smiled down at them. One brave child waved hesitantly. After a moment, Sung waved back. That evening, as news of the Empire's dissolution spread across the galaxy, Haven ships broadcast the truth to every world. Humanity had survived. They had hidden, rebuilt, and returned not for revenge, but for justice. The broadcasts included the actual footage of Earth's destruction, the historical record the Empire had suppressed for centuries. Many expected riots or resistance. Instead, on world after world, citizens who had lived under Imperial rule for generations watched in silence as the truth was revealed. Many had suspected their government capable of such acts. Few were surprised. In the years that followed, the new Galactic Council took shape. Representatives from 1,000 worlds, including Haven, gathered to create a system where no single species could dominate all others, where differences were valued rather than feared, where the strong protected the weak rather than eliminated them. The species that had been deemed too dangerous to exist had, in the end, saved the galaxy from those who had judged them. And somewhere, perhaps, the souls of Earth watched as their children created something better from the ashes of their world.